Good day, fish tankers. You've heard that expression before, you are what you eat. Do you feed yourself McDonald's all the time? I have one now and then, but usually we try and eat a balanced diet. Do you feed your dog the dog that you get from the grocery store, or do you feed vet's food? What you feed and what you eat is going to make a big difference in your health and your appearance, and it's no different for our finny friends. Now, over the years, one of our subscribers have asked in the comment section I must do something about culturing live food, but I'm going to be honest, that's not my area of expertise. The other day, I found a lot of mosquito larvae that hatched out in a big flower vase that's been standing outside with water and plants in, and I drained that and I fed that to these guys behind me and they loved it. So on occasion something like that happens, or in the past when I try to breed some fish I hatch branch them, but I don't really as a rule feed my fish live food, and the only reason is I just don't have a time to go and catch things or culture things or have space for cultures of live food sitting around. But luckily it's a modern era, there's a lot of things that we can get that is very close to as good or even as good, or maybe some would argue better. I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a scientist, so I can't really argue that point for you. But I've always fed the sort of slightly more expensive food, you know. I like things like hikari, I like things like tetra, and I feed my fish a dry food, a combination of flakes and pellets, and then also, of course, about once a week or twice a week I feed frozen food. I tend to like ocean nutrition, just the way it's packaged, and I find that it's clean, and I'll feed stuff like bloodworms and brine shrimp mostly, but also if I get other things that's frozen, mysis, krill for the bigger fish, I'll mix that into the mix as well. And then of course for the algae eaters, when there's no algae, you can't have them relying on algae only, I'll blanch some baby marrows, or like you guys in the States say zucchini, and I'll feed that to my ottos and nerite snails and bristlenose plecos and even Siamese algae eaters, just to keep them going. So my fish gets a mix of prepared food, frozen food, and for certain fish some vegetables. Now I've been given a small sample this big of Dennerle Nano pellets quite a while back by Ian Lawrence, who's the distributor for Dennerle here. So a little baggie like that, and I started feeding it to some nano fish, and then I thought I'll just go out and go with full hog. So I bought a couple of Dennerle foods over here. I paid for it myself. Dennerle didn't sponsor me with those, so it's not a sponsored video. So this is a premium fish food. It is quite pricey, and I'll leave the prices out. You can Google it wherever you are in the world, because it's going to be different in South Africa, it's going to be different in the US and Europe. Not sure if it is in the US actually. Let me know in the comments. But if you want to find out what my results were with these foods, then stick around. Now the first thing I can say, if we go and read the labels, I'll go into it in more detail later. It's a label that you sort of have to peel off like that, and it's got several languages in here. And if I can find the English, I can just find it here somewhere. Then I can read the ingredients to you. You know, I'm not going to throw a book at you, but if you look at it, insect protein from Mersha illucens, vegetable glycerin, wheat flour, wheat protein, krill, cuttlefish powder, spinach, maize, brewers yeast, potato flakes, salmon oil, water fleece, garlic, moringa, aloe vera, paprika, chicory, freshwater crayfish, calcium carbonate, stinging nettle, spirulina, on and on and on and on and on. It's got a lot of natural ingredients. It's not filled with fillers, and of course they don't use fish meal in their products. And in certain products like the Diskus food, I've also have prebiotics and probiotics, even though I don't have Diskus. Now, what else can I say just about the food physically? Okay, let's start with the flakes. You can see it's a nice sort of plastic container. It's got a very tight fitting lid. And you can see the flakes, they don't have all these colors that the usual flakes have. It's just a plain brown flake. But you can smell that strong fishy shrimpy smell straight out of a bat, which is usually a good sign. It does smell like it's made of stuff that fish will eat normally. Same thing, this is the complete diet. This is the granulate. You can see it's a rather small granule, and it's sort of almost moist to the touch, a little bit like that, and the fish do love the stuff. And then we have a color booster. This has got a thing called astaxanthin, if I pronounce it right. It's a pigment found in algae. It's a natural substance that's supposed to boost color. It's got a slightly darker color. I feed all of these together. There you can see the granulate, and that lasts a long time. There's actually a lot in this container, and it seals tightly. You can see the lid does break off that little tab, but it's easy to seal. And this is the Diskus food, a bigger granulate. It's sort of moist. You can sort of rub it between your fingers and it becomes finer. You know, I've used it a bit on the angel there in the bottom tank here and there. And that's the other one that's got a pre and probiotic as well. So what can I conclude at the end? I fed them to my tanks upstairs, a 29 gallon and a 5 gallon. As far as the nano pellets are concerned, they're really nice for your smaller fish, like your celestial pearl, danio, pseudomugals, that sort of fish, you know, Listras, Bora, things like that. And what I found with them that was quite interesting to me is my ottos like the nano pellets. Now, ottos usually only eat the vegetable stuff and the algae, and maybe algae wafers they'll eat, but you know, they love the nano pellets. Every time they go for the nano pellets, for those pellets are dropped down on the bottom. So they love the nano pellets. And then what the other food, as far as the other food's concerned, all the fish love them, they go for it. And I think the thing that gets you from the granulate at first is the small granule size. But I find it doesn't bother the bigger fish. They just take more bites than they usually take. And I think maybe we feed our fish food that's maybe a little bit big. I've touched on that topic before, that they have to spit it in and spit it out to get the food in. I can't go and prove to you scientifically that it's better, but what I can say, the fish are very healthy. Not that they have not been healthy on the previous mix of Hikari and Ocean Nutrition and Tetra and that sort of things that I feed them. I do find though that some fish are better at getting at the food than others. So they overeat and they become bloated, and sometimes they can even develop dropsy. I've got a very fat Siamese algae eater down here. I think I'm going to try this food now on the big tank also, because they eat a lot of food and it's an expensive food. But we can see what if it will help in that case. But I do think it digests a bit easier. I don't find that the fish stay with these thick bellies for so long. And as far as the color booster, my fish always had good color. It's hard for me to say whether the cherry barbs have got better color or not. I'll leave it to the viewer. But I do think it is a very good food, and it's not as expensive as it seems, because there's actually a lot of food in one of these containers, especially with a granulate. I would say is your best value for money, you know, for your smaller community fish. So would I buy it again? It lasts a long time, as I've said. I think I will definitely buy it again. I think it's a very good quality food, and I can recommend the food. I'm not saying it's better than anything else, but I think it is just a premium food. The ingredients definitely look better than others I've seen, and the fish that I fed it to, they do seem to be less bloaty, if that is a term that will make any sense. So that's what I think about Dennerle foods. Guys, tell me in the comments below, what do you feed your fish? You know, for me, I've said it's a combination between flakes and pellets and frozen food. What do you feed your fish? Do you feed a lot of live food? Do you hatch baby brine? What were your findings on these different brands? You know, like Ocean Nutrition or Hikari or Tetra or whatever you may be feeding. Let us know there. And until I see you guys again, please remember to subscribe if those who feel so inclined. But remember to take good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.